Hey there! Welcome to another review, this time of the obscure and overlooked film, and overlooked for a reason, The Tunnel. Now, this is a film that I think is not available on DVD, Blu-ray, or streaming anywhere. It's on YouTube though, so if you want to take the plunge and dig into The Tunnel, be my guest. But if you want a word of warning from me, I would suggest you avoid it. Avoid it like the fucking plague. Unless you want to watch a film that's so fucking boring, so pretentious, so fucksy fartsy, that it makes you want to tunnel into the earth to get away from watching it, then I definitely would recommend not watching this film. Not paying anything more than maybe 50 cents for this VHS. Only pick it up if you want to complete your collection of Peter Weller movies. And I would only watch this if you're a big diehard fan of Jane Seymour or Peter Weller, and you have to be a completionist, and you have to see every single film that these actors are in. Other than that, stay away. Now that I've warned you, let's get into the review, which is definitely going to be more of a rant because, oh my god, this was a hard sit. This was torture. This is a torturous experience. There's a line of dialogue where I think Peter Weller or Jane Seymour, one of the characters, they talk about how they're experiencing certain emotions. And the emotions that they're experiencing are intense. And because of their relationship or whatever, and it's all messed up and so on. And so these characters, I'm just trying to find it again here because I need to remember this. Yeah, they talk about how they're being so awful and cruel to each other. And that's what this film does. It's awful. It's awful and it's cruel. It's cruel punishment. It's if it's not bad enough that it's boring as sin, it also has to be pretentious. Has to have these deep dialogue, these deep thoughts that are about as deep as a fucking puddle. And it's just like, oh my god, there's like a line of dialogue where the film is essentially sticking its nose up at people who are being pretentious, and because Peter Weller's character named Juan Pablo Castel, I guess that's his name, Peter Weller plays a character named Juan Pablo. What? Juan Pablo? That's just... Come on now, Juan Pablo. Give me a fucking break. I know it's based on a book from like the 40s, but still, Juan Pablo is a pretty laughable name. Anyway, Peter Weller, he comments on this dinner party and says, oh, it's frivolous and superficial. I'm like, so is the movie trying to point out that certain things and other people are frivolous and superficial, but this movie isn't? Newsflash film, you're the most superficious and frivolous fucking film I've ever seen! Like, this is one of the most absolutely 100% pretentious, frivolous, and superficial, and I made up a word. Superficious isn't even a real word. It combines the two together. Frivolous and superstitious. This movie is so fucking bad. It's scrambled my brain cells. I don't know what to say. I can't even put words together in complete sentences without fucking up. Oh my god. It's such a pretentious film. It's such a slog to sit through. I went in today and I tried to give blood. And that experience was better than watching this movie. I'd rather be back on a table getting my blood drawn than watch The Tunnel. That's how shitty this film is. So The Tunnel is a 1988 film that I swear to God, I think it was shot long before 1988 and didn't get a release until years later, because it's hard to believe that this is Peter Weller's follow-up after RoboCop. But apparently this came out in April of 1988 and maybe limited theaters, and I don't even know if it even came out in theaters. I think it just came out in I just think it just came out on home video. and it's about 99 minutes, and it's full of 99 problems in all 99 of them. It's directed by Antonio Drove. Yeah, as in drove, as in people flee and get away from this film in droves and when they see it. There's like so many lines of dialogue in this film that just sum up the experience of watching this movie. It's like the movie itself is doing its job for me. It's doing my job for me. Not doing its job for me. It's doing my job. And it's saying things like, "Oh, I hurt everyone who gets near me." Yeah, yeah, yeah. You definitely hurt everyone that gets near you. So, God. Yeah, so it stars Peter Weller, Jane Seymour, and Fernando Rey. That's screenplay by Carlos A. Cornajo and Austin Mahu and Antonio Drove. Three screenwriters? Three screenwriters that come up with this shit? Where the title, The Tunnel, you want to know why it's called The Tunnel? Because it's a reference to a line of dialogue where Peter Weller is describing his love for Jane Seymour as a tunnel. As we're on two different tunnels, and we've somehow met each other and met up as one. I'm like, oh my God, the pretentious fucking this piece of fucking shit. So yeah, well, Peter Weller plays an artist named Juan Pablo Castel, who becomes obsessed with this woman named Maria, who is played by Jane Seymour. He sees her at his art gallery in the beginning of the film, and he chases her around the gallery and up these stairs and down these stairs to the score that is admittedly not that bad, but since it plays over and over again in the film, and it's not really a score that technically fits with the scene that you're watching, it's ultimately not a positive either. So he's chasing her around, and eventually, somehow, some way, they end up getting together. But this romance, there's no passion here. And Peter Weller and Jane Seymour, they have absolutely zero chemistry. They have as much chemistry as two rocks have with one another. And rocks don't have chemistry because they're fucking rocks. So, you want to bash yourself over the head with a box of rocks, or bags of rocks, or a bunch of rocks. Bury yourself alive so you don't have to watch this boring fucking bullshit. Uh, if you ever decide to pop this in your VCR or decide to watch it on YouTube one day or one night, trust me, don't do it. Look at me. Do I look like a happy person? Do I look like I made the right choice here? Do I? I don't think so. So this is such a bad film that 20 minutes in, I gave up. I gave up on the first viewing. I'm like, nope, I'm done. And then it took me two more times to finish that fucking thing. I mean, it's that bad. And when I finished it the third time, I wasn't even watching it all the way. Like it was on. I was looking at it like from the corner of my eye, and I was on YouTube and on the internet because I had to in order to save my fucking sanity. But even it was so terrible. It was so awful. It was so atrocious that I couldn't. It was even hard to watch out of one eye. I felt like my eye was going to pop out of my head and then curve around and then break out of my eye socket and grow legs and run away so I wouldn't have to watch this fucking cinematic feces anymore. So, I mean, to be honest, I don't know what is worse. Just tell me what you want or this. I think it's this because this has, I mean, this encapsulates some of the worst things about films and some of the things that I hate the most about movies. A boring film that's pretentious, that thinks it's deeper than it really is in terms of its plot and its tone. Characters that are unlikable, you don't give two shits about. Actors who don't have any chemistry and don't give a shit about the performances for the most part. Jane Seymour is on sedation. She's sedated. She's on some kind of drugs that put her on sedation so she can be able to finish this film without leaving the set. You see this cover art? You know why she looks that way? Because she's asleep. She's asleep! She fell the fuck asleep. I don't blame her. I really don't. This film is a sleeping pill. If you're having a hard time sleeping, pop in the tunnel, and it'll work like a charm, trust me. You'll be out like a light. Forgive me for the rambling here, but that's what it is, a rant. What am I going to do? I mean, this... I don't even think there's anybody else on YouTube who's been dumb enough to watch this movie, or to finish it, or to make a video about it. So, I guess I'm going to have to be the first one to take the plunge so I can just warn people. So they don't watch this shit. So the first hour or so is just unbelievably brutal to watch. It opens up with Peter Weller with the whole stuff in the art gallery, but actually the first scene is him in some shadowy room, and he's looking at a notepad, and he's narrating, and Peter Weller, I mean, I love Peter Weller. I wouldn't be doing this marathon if I didn't love the guy. He's one of my favorite actors, but man, I love you, Peter, but this performance sucks. It's a shitty performance. It's the worst performance I've seen from him. And there are some scenes where he does do a good job. There's 3 scenes where he's being angry and upset and obsessive, and it's actually effective. But other than that, the rest of it is just garbage. He has no passion for the role. He's trying to be hopeless romantic, and it doesn't work. It's not believable. Jane Seymour isn't doing him any favors either, because she's asleep throughout the whole film. And so he's trying to be this hopeless romantic character, but it doesn't come across that way because the romance is not believable between the two characters, between Juan Pablo and Maria. And then you have another problem, is that Peter Weller is narrating throughout most of the film, and his narration is absolutely horrendous. It's Harrison Ford in the theatrical cut of Blade Runner bad. He has barely any emotion. He shows more emotion when he plays RoboCop than he does narrating this film. I mean, how is that even possible? He's playing a character that's more machine than man, and he sounds like he has more emotions, and he sounds like he's more alive and more human than he sounds here in this narration. I don't know if Weller was he was tied on money, he needed a paycheck, I don't know what it is, but this is really hard to watch, and hard to listen to, and hard to see, and hard to experience, because I'm a huge Peter Weller fan. I know he could do better, and it's just to see him in such a shitty film, it's just really uncomfortable. Like I said, I'd rather be taking blood. I'd rather be having somebody stick a needle in my arm. So there's an hour of this bullshit. There's sex scenes that aren't sexy because no matter what kind of erotic music they throw in there, no matter how many scenes they show you where you get to see Jane Seymour's tits, none of that matters. No amount of nudity is going to save this because it's just extremely boring, uninteresting. It's not intriguing in the slightest. The plot just meanders around. It's meandering. It thinks it's bigger and deeper than it is. And then finally, after the hour mark, when the relationship starts to go sour, and Peter Weller his character Juan Pablo starts to become unhinged, then it actually becomes watchable. Because then it becomes a one-man show for Peter Weller to showcase his acting talents. And when he's let off the hook, when he's allowed to, be let off his reins and able to unleash his rage, Peter Weller does a great job. So it is probably the worst performance I've seen from him to date, but mainly because other than those 3 scenes, everything else is just pitiful and atrocious. But those 3 scenes, he does a great job. It really does. I bought that he was so obsessed with this woman that he would actually kill himself if she didn't come and visit him. I bought that. I bought that he was out there. I bought that he had lost his mind. I bought that he was dangerous. I bought that he was somebody to be reckoned with. When Peter Weller starts to go psycho, it becomes watchable, which is why that's what the film should have been. The film should have just been from the point of view of Peter Weller's character, Juan Pablo, losing his mind. And maybe have some more scenes here. Maybe have it's about Juan Pablo, who's a killer. It's a serial killer. He's a serial killer, and he's talking about all these women and all these victims that he's killed or something. And then it leads up to the end where finally he gets stopped or something. I mean, because Peter Weller's performance in this, in certain scenes, in those three scenes, is effective and powerful. And it really makes you think, damn, what a waste of a good psycho Peter Weller performance. I mean, why can't we just have that film where Peter Weller is a psychopath? And that's what the movie's about, not this pedantic, boring bullshit romance that doesn't work because these two characters have no chemistry. The romance isn't very fleshed out. It isn't very well written, and it just doesn't work. So there's no sparks. Comes up empty. And eventually it goes where you think it's going to go because the film made the fucking huge error of already revealing what the twist would be or what the ending would be in the opening before the opening credits. Because the whole thing where Peter Weller's in the shadowy room and he's talking, writing on a notepad, he says, "Oh, you know, this is a story of a woman that I love, and because I loved her, I had to kill her." And I'm like, so, all right, you just gave that away. So all the film is after that is like an hour and 40 some minutes. Not an hour and 40 some minutes, thank God. It's an hour and 30 something minutes of just waiting for him to kill Jane Seymour. And finally he does, because he finds out the truth that she cheated on him, or because the whole thing is confusing because he's cheating on her. Well, not really, because she's married with some guy, Fernando Rey, and he has the hots for her, and he's obsessed with her. They actually start getting a relationship with each other, but Peter Weller doesn't really, he doesn't believe that she's still with his husband, her husband or something, and it's just like a whole bunch of just all my children drama bullshit. Fucking who gives a shit? I don't care. Um, And this all builds up to Peter Weller finally losing it because he said he would kill her if she left him or whatever, or slept with another man, even though she was married. And it's like, are we supposed to sympathize with Peter Weller? Well, no, not really, because he's portrayed as this obsessive asshole who actually literally raped Jane Seymour in one scene, but then Jane Seymour isn't really necessarily in the right of mind either, because after that she's like, I love you. And before he called her a whore, he was like, you're a whore. And then she cries and she's thinking about leaving, and then later at the drop of a hat she's like, I love you, Juan Pablo, I love you, call me a whore again because I love it when you talk dirty, Juan Pablo. It's just uh And so you get to the climax, and Peter Weller goes in, finds her at her mansion where she's living with Alande, played by Fernando Rey, and she's in the shower. Peter Weller's there. Juan Pablo is there waiting for her. She gets out of the shower. He stabs her. The death scene isn't even worth waiting for. It's forgettable as fuck. It's just like, ugh. You don't see anything. She dies. Alande Ravenna Ray gets mad at him and says that he did something bad and he's upset at him, but he doesn't call the cops or anything. He just lets him go. I don't know. I don't fucking care. Either way. And then the last shot of the film is Peter Weller in that shadowy room again, writing on the notepad and doing his narration while while he sounds like a zombie, fucking zombified narration. And he goes in and he says something like, "Now I am stuck in my own hell, personal hell, or something, or these pillars of hell are all around me, and blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Fucking, I don't just end already." And finally it does, and I'm like, "Oh fuck, thank you, God, it's over." I thought this was never going to end. That this was going to be unendless torment. Oh my god. Oh. So, I really don't know what else to say about the tunnel. I really don't. Except this is an unbelievably slow, boring, pretentious, fucksy fartsy film. And what do I mean by fucksy fartsy? It's not just artsy fartsy, it's fucksy fartsy. Because it's not really artistic. It's wannabe artistic expression. The director does not know how to direct. He's just very stock directing, very static directing. He doesn't know how to use his camera angles. He doesn't know how to use the lighting. He doesn't know how to do very much of anything except the bare minimum. So, for the most part, it's just drags on and on and on and on and on for what feels like infinity. Because it's nothing but dialogue. The dialogue is forgettable and pretentious. The characters, they all suck. You don't care about any of them. Peter Weller's an asshole. Jane Seymour is a bitch. Who gives a shit about both of them? I don't know why anybody would watch this. Unless they want to experience what it's like to watch a film that's so bad and so boring and so slow paced and so pretentious that it sucks your soul right out of your anus, then I don't know why anyone would ever watch this. So, yeah, it's safe to say I did not fucking like this movie. Safe to say I thought this was not a very good film at all. So, if I was going to say anything positive about it, 3 scenes with Peter Weller. There's one scene where has some ladies macking on him, and he tells them to leave, so which kind of reminded me of RoboCop. So it's like, oh, like Murphy telling some bitches to leave. All right, I was expecting him to be like, bitches leave, and they leave him, and then he gets like a cigarette. He smokes a cigarette, and then he has like this scene where he's like drinking. He's at a bar while this is happening, and then he gets pissed off and breaks a mirror, and the bar guy's like, "Hey, what are you doing? Get out of here, you bum!" And then there's one scene where he's like getting upset at the post office because they were telling him he can't take his letter back, and he has a nice little rant about it that kind of reminded me of the scene in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but with less swearing, where Steve Martin's character is all like, "I want a fucking car right fucking now," and of course the clerk's like, "Do you have your receipt?" "I threw it away." You're fucked. See, this was so shitty. I'd rather be talking about better movies like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Um, but yeah, so there's 3 good Peter Weller scenes. Jane Seymour adds nothing to the film. She's a pretty face, but that's about it. The music, except for one piece of score, is forgettable in one ear out the other. The direction is flat as a fucking board. The screenplay is full of just boring, pretentious, artsy dialogue that goes nowhere and just drags the film down into the pits of hell. The and then it's a period piece for some reason, but there's really no reason why it has to be. It takes place in the 40s or something. It doesn't really have to take place in the 40s. I guess it's only that way because the book was made in the 40s. I don't know, but regardless, it's not really necessary that it takes place in the 40s. They don't do much with that. It's only in the 40s because some of the clothes look a bit old. Like that's really about it. Other than that, there's no distinct 40s aesthetic about it. It's just they wear some old clothes. So, yeah, everything about this film is a fail. Every single fucking thing about this fails miserably, hard. It's an epic face plant right onto the fucking asphalt. Just boom, just flat, right on its face. So anyway, I don't know what else to say about the tunnel except it's rated 5 stars. Half a star? Half a star for the 3 scenes of Weller. a bit of the score. That's it. That's all. There's nothing else worth the shit about the tunnel. So anyway, thanks for watching my rants and review of the tunnel, and I will see you guys later. See ya.